Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's live webinar as part of Post-16 Careers Week. A very warm welcome to you all on this Thursday evening. Not as wet and drizzly as it has been for the rest of the week, so I hope you've had a good one so far. Thanks very much for taking the time to join with us tonight, and appreciate everybody's got clubs and homework and dinner to cook. So a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Caroline Patton. I'm here on behalf of Stockport Jobs Match, and I'll be your host for this evening. So a little bit of housekeeping whilst we're waiting for people to just sign in for Teams and jump onto the call and do last minute downloads of the app. To tell you a little bit about tonight's event. So tonight's event is all about higher education. So you might be joining us tonight because you're a year 12 or 13 student thinking about what comes next at 18 plus, or you might be a year 10 and 11 student considering your next steps after secondary school, and maybe the choices that you make over A levels or T levels or apprenticeships hinge on what those next step choices are. So tonight we're joined by some fabulous guest speakers, which I'm going to introduce in a moment, and we're going to be talking all about what those different options are. So we're going to look a little bit at traditional university degrees, talking about that application process, that all-important personal statement, a little bit about grants and funding, because we always get a lot of questions about how that works, the cost of going to university being a really big thing for people's decision-making process at the moment. We're also going to look at what else you can do in terms of higher education courses, so HNCs, HNDs, and other things that you might want to consider instead of that traditional university degree route. We're going to talk a little bit about degree apprenticeships and higher apprenticeships and looking more at that vocational route. And then if we've got time, we're going to come to everything else. So there's a whole host of free courses that you can do once you effectively become an adult. So up until the age of 25, most courses are either fully funded or free for you to study. And there's a whole host of kind of short skills courses, lots of which are kind of pre-employment courses, we call them. So they're linked to a job opportunity at the end of them. So we'll talk a little bit about those in case you're undecided and you want to weigh up your options. We can either answer your questions about support available locally for starting your own business. So I'm going to come on to our presenters in a second, and we're going to kick off and get started with the questions because we've got a huge amount to run through this evening, and our aim is really to give you as much information as possible. Some of you may have been on open days already and got a flavour for things. Some of you may have a really firm career goal in mind and have specific questions for our panellists that you want to get to tonight. Others of you may be absolutely clueless about what comes next and really be using this information as a starting point of what those options are. So we're going to try and come through it all. What I just wanted to say is a little bit about the functionality. So you should have a button somewhere on your screen, whether you're on a mobile, a tablet, a desktop or a laptop. You should have something somewhere that's like a little speech bubble with a Q&A button on it. So if you want to ask a question tonight, you can pop it in that Q&A chat. You can post it completely anonymously if you don't want to put your name behind it. And we will try and get through as many questions as we can. This is our third event of the week. And my advice to you would be, if you've got a specific question, get it in quickly. Don't leave it to the last 10 minutes, because if we've got a backlog, we might not be able to come to it. We're going to talk through some of the common questions first as a bit of a starting point, but if there's things that you want to know specifically, pop them in that Q&A chat and we'll try to get through as many as we can. For those we don't get time to answer, we'll send them over via email to our guest panelists, and hopefully they'll be able to provide a written response to you. Okay, so I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves for us to get started, and I'm going to go in the order that's on my screen. So Nicole, you're first. Just 1 second. Unmute yourself, please.
That always helps.
There we go. Yep.
So do you want me to just answer the questions as they were given me? Yeah.
No, I don't. I just want you to introduce yourself for now. We'll come on to the questions in a sec.
I'm Nicole. I'm the Engagement Enhancement Officer for Trafford and Stockport College Group's University Centre. and my job role is to work with our students here to support them through their degrees and their courses, and to, represent them in student voice and that sort of thing.
Brilliant, thank you. Sophie, you're next.
Hi everyone, my name's Sophie. I work at the University of Manchester as a marketing recruitment officer, and a big part of my role is supporting students make the right choice for them by going around to schools and colleges all across the country.
Brilliant, thank you. Alex?
Hi everyone, my name's Alex and I work at Manchester Metropolitan University doing a very similar job role to Sophie, so going into schools and colleges and speaking about those next steps.
Brilliant, thank you. And Isla?
Hi everyone, my name is Isla. I'm a degree apprentice at Stockport Council and I work on the digital transformation team.
Brilliant, thank you. So as you'll see, we've got a real range of hosts tonight from university, HE college background, degree apprenticeship background. So hopefully we'll be able to tackle any question that you want to put to them. But I'm going to start the evening by coming to Nicole to ask a little bit about some of those HE options available at 18 plus. So if I can just ask you that, Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about the courses that are available at Stockport College and at the University Centre that people could opt for?
Sure. I mean, across the UK, there are typically several higher education options, including here, and we offer all of these. So there's the undergraduate degrees, and this is the most common route for 18-year-olds. They typically last 3 to 4 years. Our lasts about 3 years, and we offer them through different providers. So even though you might be attending the Stockport College campus, if you're doing something in early years, you would be doing that through Sheffield Hallam and including art. So your degree would be through Sheffield Hallam. If you're doing in education and doing sort of education training, that would be like through Huddersfield. So these options include like we tend to do early years and we do art. There's also our higher national diplomas and foundation degrees. We also do the foundation degrees as well. These are shorter courses. They're about 2 years, and the qualifications can either lead directly into employment depending on what it is in, or it can be topped off to a full degree later. So this would include things like construction, business, building services, computing, and engineering, including, I think there's also some art, and we're hoping to bring in some science and health HNCs as well.
Okay, perfect. So I think it's perhaps important to clarify, isn't it, a bit about the levels of qualification, because I think that's a starting point that feels confusing. So just to set that out for you, level 1 is entry level. Level 2 is things like GCSEs, but you can do apprenticeships and NVQs and BTECs at a level 2 as well. Level 3 is things like A levels, T levels, and some apprenticeships and NVQs and BTECs as well. They're all worth the same thing. It's the level that's important. So level 3 are all worth the same. They all convert to UCAS points, etc. So A levels, T levels, apprenticeships. Level 4, again, can be an apprenticeship level, but that's things like your HNCs, isn't it, and your foundation degrees. And then level 5 and 6 is more like your undergraduate, postgraduate degree, and level 7 is your master's qualification. So there's lots of level 4 qualifications is what you're saying, Nicole, isn't there?
Yes.
So once you finish your A levels at level 3, there's lots of level 4s to choose from. So
as well
how would
as
you
level 5 and level 6. So we do have the top ups as well. So we've got the foundation degrees, which is your level 4, and the HNCs, which is your level 4s. Then you can do your level 5s with the foundation is 4 and 5, and then you can top up with your level 6 with the bachelor, or you can do the straight bachelor's degree, or you can do the HNC to HND top up, which is your level 4 and 5s. So, which also can be topped up to a full degree as well.
So how would you recommend students find out about what's available in the first instance? Should they start with thinking about where they want to study, or what they want to study, or what type of qualification, or is it different for everyone?
It's different for everyone. Honestly, we have students that we consider more traditional students, so might be going down the more traditional routes. They're going to university, they're doing the UCAS applications, to students who may want to work a year and then come back into education. And we have a lot of students, especially at a university center, who are adult students who have been out of education for years and now are coming back into education to do their A levels all the way up to their degrees. So how to find out, it just depends on things like their interest and skills. So to know what it is you're interested in. And I think this is the question you're asking me, is how can students make decision about what to do next? Yeah. So think about the interest and skills. So reflect on subjects that you enjoy, that you're good at. If you're passionate about a particular subject, you're more likely to succeed in a related course or career. Your career goals. What are your career goals? Think about the types of jobs or industries that you're interested in. Some university courses are designed to lead directly into specific careers such as nursing and engineering and teaching, where there's clear professional paths laid out, where other courses like humanities, social science provide broader transferable skills such as critical thinking, communication, problem solving, and these can be applied across many industries. So understanding your long-term goals can help choose the right course, whether you want a specialized role or to keep your options open for different career paths. So another thing is, talk to your career advisors, your teachers and professionals in the field um, that you're interested in, and attending more of these like open days like these and webinars can provide valuable insights into where you want to go next.
Yeah, sure. That's really good advice. Thank you. Welcome to anyone who's just joining us. We're working our way through some questions. You're very welcome tonight. What I was going to say is students can also continue at level 3, can't they? If you want to try something completely new, they could carry on at level 3. So there's lots of different options available. A key question that sometimes people often ask is, when does the cost kick in? Are all level 4 courses chargeable? And what do those different charges look like? Is a degree more expensive than a HNC, or how does it work?
Well, typically, I mean, it really depends on the institution you're going to. Now, most university level HE courses are funded through student finance. So there'll be a tuition loan available and even maintenance loan available. Unlike FE, when it comes to funding, with your college, a lot of the funds or support that you get comes through part of the package that you get as a younger learner. Where in HE, most of the funds that would come into extra resources actually come to you directly instead of through the university through your maintenance fees. So the first thing you do when you would start a course is apply for the fees. Now, as far as how much it costs, really that just depends on the university you're going to. For instance, we charge £8,000, I think, for our bachelor's degree first year, and we charge about the same amount for our HNC. So it ends up being about the same amount. So it's part-time at 4,000. So they end up paying the same amount, like 8,000 for their HNC, which is the same level as the level 4 that they would be doing. We are, because we're a university center and we don't have as much perhaps overhead or whatever as a university, we can afford to charge a bit less. So it really, but then we may offer less services that you would have in mind if you were thinking about that traditional university route. So the fees really just depend on the organization, the institution, and the course that you're applying for.
Sure. I'm just going to ask you one more thing, if that's okay, and this relates to a couple of the questions in the chat. So I think the point is students really need to do their homework, don't they? You've kind of got to go out and read a lot of the information. You've got to go onto the college websites. You've got to go onto the university websites. UCAS is a common starting point because that has everything in one place about the courses and the institutions and the fees and the entry requirements as well, because that's something else that plays a big role in your options. If you've achieved certain grades at level 3, it may close doors, it may open doors, etc. But is there somewhere that you would also signpost people to? Somebody's asked about, if you're undecided and you really want to speak to somebody, are there services available of people who take into account your individual circumstances and give you a little bit of guidance that you're aware of?
Well, yeah, I mean, most colleges have and really go talk to your career advisors. Most colleges have these career advisors, and they know, so they have dealt with so many students and so many similar interests and things that students have. They're amazing. The career I taught on a level 3 provision for years and years as an access to HE teacher, and the careers advisors are an absolute gem in every campus I've ever worked on. They know everything about courses across the UK because they've helped students apply for them. They've helped students find out information for them. They are literally a font of information, and they're really good, and they're trained to do some career exploration with students and help support them in making decisions and knowing who they are.
Yeah, I think I'd signpost you to a couple of additional services as well there. So that's a great point, Nicole. Do start with your college or your sixth form or your apprentice careers advisor. There's also the National Career Service. So they're great and they've got a free helpline number. I'll try and dig it out and post it in the chat at some point if I can. If not, I will send it out via Eventbrite as a link after this. But National Career Service have got a helpline. The Prince's Trust also offer kind of a mentoring service called Business in the Community, and they do kind of career coaching services for people who are undecided, which is a great one. It's like an online appointment that you can book. There's also kind of lots of online chat groups that you can go to that have got support for students. And Stockport Council also has a service called the Careers and Education Service that I believe you can telephone into and book an appointment with somebody. So there is lots of support there available if you want to speak to a person as well. Thank you very much, Nicole. I'm going to come on to Sophie now, if that's okay. I'm aware that we've got a lot to pack in tonight. I can see loads of questions in the chat. Some of them we're going to come to, so that's why I've not tackled them already. Others, I've got a specific speaker in mind, so don't think I'm ignoring your question. I will come to you. So, Sophie, you're obviously from University of Manchester. Just to remind anybody who joined us a little bit later this evening, can you talk to us a little bit, please, about what the application process looks like for universities in general and the University of Manchester, please?
Yeah, sure. So anyone who's interested in applying to university will be submitting an application through UCAS. So that stands for the Universities and Colleges Admission Service. And you will have up to 5 choices on that UCAS form. So you might want to apply for 5 different courses at 5 different universities, or you might want to apply to 5 different courses at the same university. It's completely up to you. On that application form is some personal information. We look at grades that you've achieved already, so your GCSEs or your level 2s. We look at your predicted grades, and you also have a personal statement there. So you have one personal statement for all 5 courses. And then alongside your application, your teachers will also submit a reference as well. So that will go to all the 5 universities that you're applying to, if you are applying to 5, and then they can review your application. After you've submitted your application, you then wait to receive a response from a university. So that might be a rejection, it might be a conditional offer, or in some cases, it's less likely it could be an unconditional offer as well. And then you would make that decision as to which of the 2 choices are your firm and your insurance choice. There is an application fee for the UCAS application. A lot of schools and colleges do cover that for you anyway, and there is a waiver if you've been on free school meals in the last 6 years.
Brilliant, thank you. So that's great that there is one centralised way of doing it. That's really good. And I'm presuming that you'd put down the same course for everywhere, or is it slightly different courses, or?
So it would be different courses.
Okay.
You could do Spanish at 5 different universities, but it can also be completely different courses. The only thing to bear in mind is you do only have one personal statement. So you want to make sure that that can be applicable to all the courses that you're applying for.
Right. And the personal statement is obviously the bit that people normally ask about.
Yes.
Receive a high volume of university applications. How on earth do you make yourself stand out in that personal statement? How would you approach the writing of that?
Yeah, so from a kind of university point of view, and this is particularly Manchester, but I think most universities would say this as well, we're looking to see that you've done your research, so you know kind of what that course is about. If it's a course that a subject that you study at sixth form, it can be a little bit different at university. We want to make sure that you know what study would be like at an undergraduate level at university. We also want to see potential. So the way we want to see that is in the skills that you have. So can you evidence your academic skills? Can you evidence your kind of personal and transferable skills in your personal statement? So that might come from discussing a bit about the curriculum of the courses that you're studying already. It might come from super curricular activities, so like wider reading and kind of reflecting on that. Or it might come from kind of a part-time job that you have, work experience, that kind of thing. And the really, really important thing to do, you might be someone who's got lots of experience, who's done lots of wider reading. The important thing to do is to reflect on that. So we say that you should have, or one way we recommend doing that is the ABC method. So that's activity, benefit, and course. So kind of list what you've done, whether that's that wider reading or the part-time job, kind of draw on the skills that you've gained from that, and then how does that link to you being a good student or specifically a student on that course as well. Be concise, use an introduction and a conclusion. And I think my kind of top tip for students as well is don't feel like you have to use really fancy words and kind of sound like you're not yourself. Be concise, be professional and formal, but you don't have to kind of go to a thesaurus and sound like it's not you, because we're not looking for that.
Right. Okay. So be authentic and be relevant. Some really good advice there. What happens next? So when can people expect to hear back, and what does that decision-making process look like? How much of it is just based on grades, and how much of it is, a really original personal statement?
Yeah, so that will depend from university to university and even subject to subject within a university. But the key things we look at when we're assessing applications is, first of all, we'll look at your predicted grades. So we'll see if you're meeting those entry requirements. And like we've said before, the entry requirements for different courses vary completely. Again, university to university, subject to subject. So make sure you're meeting those. We look at your academic performance to date for some subjects. So we will state on our website if we expect a certain number of GCSEs at a certain grade. And we'll obviously look at your personal statement, although the amount of emphasis that's put on that does depend on the subject, but the advice is just to do the best personal statement that you can. We'll look at your teacher's reference, and then there may be extra admissions selection processes. So, for example, there may be an interview or there may be an extra test. So, for example, if you're applying to medicine at Manchester, we ask you to do the UCAT, the University Clinical Aptitude Test. So there's lots that we take into account, but you can find that all on the website for that subject at the university. It's a lot of information, but it's worth looking at. After you've submitted your application, we will, like I said, you'll get an outcome on UCAS, and universities aim to give you all your outcomes by the 14th of May for this entry cycle. You then have until the 4th of June to make a decision of if you do have 2 or more offers, which ones you make your firm or insurance choice. So your firm choice is the one that if you meet those offer conditions, you'll be placed there on A-level results day. And obviously your insurance is a backup. So it sounds really, really obvious, but I've had so many students over the years who've had an insurance choice where their offer conditions are actually higher than their firm, and it means that they don't have a backup. So just make sure that they are lower for your insurance, and that you're actually happy going there if you didn't quite meet your offer conditions.
Yeah, good advice there. That's brilliant. A couple of questions from on the chat. So somebody said, is it true that UCAS are replacing the personal statement? Have you heard that?
So it will be slightly different from entry 2026, but for entry 2025, it will be as it is. For entry 2026, it won't be that we won't have a personal statement. It will just be structured slightly differently, and it'll be a number of questions. But UCAS will have that on the website for them. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And somebody else has said, would you recommend choosing 2 universities that offer over your predicted grades, 2 matching your predicted grades and 1 less than these grades, so you've got kind of a range of options?
Yeah, I mean that is one way of doing it. I would say I'd have a look at the courses and the entry requirements, and often you will just know which university you want to go to and which is a realistic choice. But I think for your firm and insurance, it's fine to be slightly aspirational for your firm, but then realistic for your insurance.
Yeah, okay, so that you're not left without. Okay, fantastic. That is really, really good. Thank you so much. We're going to come back to you again shortly, but I just wanted to come on to Alex, if that's okay, at Manchester Metropolitan University.
Yeah, of course.
So big questions here, and we are going to come on to degree apprenticeships with you guys in just a second, but I wondered if you could talk us a little bit as in clear terms for parents and students and carers as you possibly can about what funding looks like, because we're all terrified about the cost of heading off to university, aren't we? So what do we get money towards? What do we need to get a loan for? How do we need to apply? What does that look like, please?
Yeah, of course, Caroline. So yeah, like you said, it is an area that people sometimes worry about and you hear sort of spoken about a lot before going to university. And Nicole touched on it slightly before, but essentially what we tend to say is that there's sort of two main costs to going to university. So one of them is the cost of the tuition. So that typically, the maximum that universities can charge for that is £9,250 a year. And unfortunately, typically they do charge that. So that is what you'd be looking at paying for each year of the course. So that is what we call a tuition fee. And then you've obviously got the cost associated with living at university if you're choosing to live away, or even if you're choosing to live at home still, the sort of living costs that come day to day. So for both of those, there is support available for students. And for most people on this call, I would imagine that it will be Student Finance England that will be providing that for them. So there's sort of options for both of those sides of it. So you can access a tuition fee loan. So that is paid directly to the university that you choose to go to, and that covers each year of study, that £9,250. And like I say, that goes directly to the university. So sometimes parents particularly say to us, oh, there's not a chance they could spend that before it's gone to the university, but actually that goes straight there. So you don't need to worry about that, and that is covered for your cost of your course. And then the other side of it is that living cost. So the way that that works can look slightly more confusing on paper. It essentially uses a system called means testing. So it is based on the household income of the student. And there is essentially an amount of money that everyone can access. And then there is potentially more money on top of that, depending on the household income that the student comes from. And that's assessed in the previous tax year to the one that they go to university in.
Right.
So I don't think we've got the figures that we can sort of give you right now, but the best thing to do is to look on the Student Finance website. So they have something called a Student Finance Toolkit that students can essentially use before they go to university, and they can get a calculated figure of what they'd be able to access in terms of that cost support, so that living cost support. And that can be really helpful when you're looking at things like accommodation and the cost of different universities, that kind of thing, is having a rough idea of how much support you'd be able to access from student finance.
Okay, and how do they go about applying for it? Is it all just via the student finance website? And when do they find out whether they've got it?
Yeah, so it's via the Student Finance website. So sometimes, as Sophie said about the UCAS application, people think they're linked, but they're actually completely separate. So you'll do your UCAS application, and then it's really important that as soon as you're able to, once it's open, you get that student finance application in. So it's typically around the March most years, to go in the September. And what we would always advise is get that completed as soon as possible. Obviously, based on what Sophie said, you might not have necessarily heard back from all of your university choices by that point, because they've actually got until the May to reply to you and say whether they're making you an offer. But when you fill in that application form online, and it's very similar to the UCAS form in the actual process of working your way through the online form, you can essentially just put what you think is the most likely choice you'll be going to. And then if once you've had that all confirmed nearer the time, you end up going to a different university, it's really simple to log in and just change that. But the reason that we advise to complete that so early is because quite often student finance, I think they advise they need at least 6 weeks to make sure that they've got that in place, but they can quite often ask you for some additional information, maybe a bit of evidence towards what you said in terms of your household income or any other sort of mitigating circumstances. So it's really important to make sure that you've got that in place in time for your course, both for the living costs, but also because universities will be needing you to pay that fee directly to them to start on the course.
Brilliant, thank you. That I know it's a really difficult topic, but that came across really clearly, so thank you for that.
Thanks, Caroline.
I just wanted to come on to the degree apprenticeship side of things, if that's okay, because we're starting to get quite a lot of questions through about that. It's understandably quite a popular topic, and one that I think people feel a bit misinformed about and a little bit in the dark over. So what kind of degree apprenticeship options do you offer at Manchester Met?
Yeah, of course. So we offer, I think it's about 7 routes that are designed for school and college leavers. So just to sort of preface that, sometimes when people look on our website, they see other options, and we do have about 17 programs overall, but quite a few of them are for people that have existing experience in that area. So we offer about 7 different programs that are suitable for people who've just finished their level 3 qualifications, and they are typically in areas like business, digital marketing, things to do with IT, so software engineering or cybersecurity, that kind of thing. And then we have a few that are sort of more science-based pathways as well, so like lab technician work.
Okay. And somebody's asked in the chat, how do you apply for a degree apprenticeship? Do you just apply via UCAS? So, your 5 choices, do you put down 4 for unis and 1 for a degree apprenticeship, or is it completely different process? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's a completely different process. And I think when you said about people not feeling as informed about them, this is one of the main things, is that people don't quite understand how the application process works. So obviously, as a university that provides them, we have partners that we work with who provide the work part of the apprenticeship. And essentially the application is done completely through them at the start. So what we would always advise is, if you're thinking that you want to do a degree apprenticeship, be that with us or another provider, that you register for alerts wherever you're able to. So the government website, our website, lots of different places online that you can register for the alerts. And essentially then you will follow the job application process for whichever company it is. And that can be really different. So it's hard to advise exactly what would happen, but typically it would be a CV and cover letter. It might well then be a group assessment centre, and then potentially an online interview or something like that. And you would essentially follow their normal recruitment process until the point at which they would be happy to offer you that role and that degree apprenticeship. And at that point, then you would enrol with the university to let us know that you've been successful, and we would get in touch with you about the sort of university element of it. But actually, in the first instance, you need to secure that job role. And I think that's where people don't quite realise that it can be a really competitive thing to do to get a degree apprenticeship.
So if people are weighing up their options and thinking that they might do either, would you
Yeah.
advise them to still get that UCAS application in once they're looking for a degree apprenticeship and take it from there?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So that is what we always say. So unless you are 100% confident that if you're not doing a degree apprenticeship, you don't want to get a degree otherwise, we would always advise that you get your UCAS application in, because that needs to be in by the January. That is when colleges will sort of get it sent off. We tend to say that the busiest window for job applications with, paired with us, is normally sort of November till April. So
Okay.
it might be that you don't secure a degree apprenticeship until much later on in the year. Sometimes it's as late as June. So if you've not applied for UCAS and then you get to that point, you might well be worrying that you've not secured one. If you get your UCAS application in, you hear back from universities, and then you find a degree apprenticeship, there's absolutely no problem not accepting those places.
Yeah.
But it's really good to have that as a backup, so that
Yeah.
you're not worrying about that later on, or having to find an alternative option if unfortunately you don't secure a degree apprenticeship.
Yeah, really good advice. I think that's an important distinction to make, isn't it?
Yeah.
That an apprenticeship is essentially a job
Yeah.
that comes with some training. It's not training with a work placement.
No, so about
it's job
80% of your
first.
time would be in the workplace. So it is very
Yeah.
different. And that's probably the thing to stress. And I'm sure Isla will touch upon this. We speak
Yeah.
to a lot of students who think it's quite similar to going to university. And it's really just to use this opportunity to say that it isn't. So you aren't able to go in student halls. You're not a student in the same sort of way as you would be doing a degree. You're going to be mostly in work, and then you're going to just be getting that degree as well. So it's a
Yeah.
very different sort of student experience, if you will.
Which is why you apply for it in the same way as a job,
Yeah.
through the employer, and they are available all year round. I think it is safe to say that there are a lot of schemes that do start in September time, because some bigger employers recognise that they're competing with university students, so they start it in line with the academic year. Others launch their scheme around February time, because that's National Apprenticeship Week, so they are aware that they may get more applicants during that time. But it's different from different organisations. Some will start advertising it in that kind of September to Christmas period, but it won't actually start for another 6 months until after you qualify. So my advice would always be, if you're considering that degree apprenticeship route and you're in year 12 now, it's a good idea to start looking so that you'll see when those apprenticeships are released. But I'm going to come on to Isla about that now, if that's okay. So if I can just ask you to start off with, Isla, to just tell us a little bit about your background, because you started in the university route, didn't you?
Yeah, so I was in second year of college when COVID hit. So February came, I didn't sit my exams. They gave us our marks based on our performance in the classroom. I went through clearing and I just chose a course that I was interested in, but there was no real justification for why I chose it. It was kind of my friends were doing it. I thought I wanted to do it as well. So I did a year of online university and it just wasn't for me. I always enjoyed learning, but especially in the classroom, but the whole exam side of things just wasn't something that I was particularly good at. So after the end of my first year at university, I thought I'll have a look at apprenticeships. I was scrolling through Instagram, heard something about project management, and I think I was looking at like the highest paid jobs or something silly like that. And then I started Googling what apprenticeships were about, what kind of levels there were, and I started an apprenticeship at Stockport Council as a project management apprentice at level 4.
At level 4, okay. So how did you find that apprentice? How did you apply for that apprenticeship? What was that process for you?
So I applied with a CV online on the government website, and that was a CV. And then I got through to the interviews, and you had to do a presentation. They gave you a quick brief, and you had to do a presentation in front of a couple of people who were on the team and kind of talk about yourself, your experience, and then you would proceed onto the job.
Okay. And you finished your level 4 apprenticeship now, and you're actually doing your level 5 apprenticeship. So it must have been a positive experience.
Yes, it was very positive. So I finished my level 4 in 2023, and then I had a couple of different career options. So I could have gone to Transport for Greater Manchester, and do their Chartered Management degree apprenticeship programme. But I decided to stay at Stockport Council and completely change my pathway and do the Digital Technology Solutions degree apprenticeship.
And your training is at Manchester Met, is that right?
No, so I'm with Multiverse, which
Oh, are
is
your first one? Right, okay.
My first one, the Chartered Management one, is one with Manchester Metropolitan University. But as I said, I kind of switched gears and I decided to go with a data-focused degree apprenticeship.
Okay. And what advice would you give people about the comparison, I suppose, between university studies and that degree apprenticeship route in terms of the workload, the learning opportunities? Give us a bit of pros and cons of each.
I would say if I look at my friends, there would be times where I'd look at them and they'd be like out for freshers or doing things like that, and I'm like, God, I wish I was doing that too. But then the idea of having a monthly salary, so that was a pro, because when they were living off pot noodles, I was being able to go out for food. There's the experience of being able to communicate in that workplace, kind of picking up on the behaviours that you don't really pick up on in the classroom environment. Just kind of speaking to senior colleagues and getting familiar with the processes in work, and as well as having that mix of having your own projects to be responsible for and meeting people across the organisation, people you wouldn't really speak to in that university environment. But if you do thrive in the classroom and you enjoy that learning and would really want to focus on those opportunities, then it's completely dependent on the person, really. It's hard to advise.
Yeah, you don't want to steer them down one route or another. There's advantages of both. I completely understand that. I'm just going to jump. We've got quite a lot of questions in the chat and I don't want to ignore them. So I'm going to try and get through those because I do want to come back to university and I do want to speak to Nicole again about what else you can do at Stockport College for adults too. So first one is, what is the website address to register for degree apprenticeship alerts? I'll cover that off straight away. It's apprenticeships.gov.uk. Vast majority of apprenticeships are advertised on there, but there are other websites as well. There's Not Going to Uni, there's Get My First Job, and a lot are advertised on employer websites as well. So it's a good idea to kind of look on social media, do hashtag degree apprenticeship and search for programs that way. And if you know a certain industry sector that you're interested in, so you want to do something scientific, you want to do something law related, you want to do something in a particular area, look at those organisations and to see what pathways they offer and follow that organisation to find out when their next recruitment cycle for a degree apprenticeships is coming around. Will's asked, can you switch from a normal degree to an apprenticeship degree? Do you want to tackle that one, Alex?
Yes, I can give it a go. So as far as I know, I don't think it will be possible to switch across, as in take any of that previous study with you. So in the same way that Isla's done, I imagine it was sort of starting again at your level 4 qualification, Isla. So you would then be able to apply if you wanted to do and try and move across in that sense, but it wouldn't be. Whereas if you were doing a degree in one subject area, saying you wanted to switch to a different one, quite often universities could sort of count that study still and you could move on to a different programme. It wouldn't quite work the same way to move on to a degree
Two different
apprenticeship.
qualifications, yeah. Next one, I'll come back to you on this, either from Dawn. How much does a degree apprenticeship cost?
Nothing. You get paid to do it, so that's a big pro.
Yeah, so it's paid for by the employer. So there's no cost to you individually, and you also earn a wage once you do it because you're an employee. That wage depends on your age and obviously the organisation, but there's no cost to do a degree apprenticeship, which is an obvious advantage. Alex, I don't know whether you know this. Are there any degree apprenticeships available in law?
Someone was actually asking me this earlier today, and I think there is, but it isn't something that we offer at Manchester Met. I think from when I had a quick Google earlier in the day, UCLan was a provider of a law degree apprenticeship. So if you're looking for something local, they could be a good idea to have a look at.
Yeah, it's more common for other qualifications though, like legal practice certificates and stuff like that. So, you know, some law practices prefer that to a degree apprenticeship route. They're not as readily available as far as I'm concerned. Last one, I think, on degree apprenticeships, and then we'll return to them if we get any more questions. Again, I'll come to you on this, Alex. What information do you have, or do you have any information about degree apprenticeships in criminology with a potential view to detective graduate entry within the police? Know anything about that?
Oh gosh, you're testing me tonight, everyone. Again, not something that we offer at Manchester Met, unfortunately, so I'm not so sure. I would imagine criminology is a subject area that, again, potentially there are some, but it isn't as common as things like business, like Isla said, project management, that kind of thing. Typically, the ones we see are more focused on those subject areas, but they are adding ones all the time as well.
I think the thing to ask you then is there a website that you can go to where you can search for what degree apprenticeships or what apprenticeship qualifications and training courses exist? Because we've got a lot about, is there sports, is there physics? How would somebody find out what the different standards are?
Yeah, so I think probably referring back to the websites that you've mentioned already, Caroline, so stuff like the government website for apprenticeships, that kind of thing are the best area to look in. UCAS do also publish, but it is typically the jobs that are available at that time. So that sometimes can make it a bit tricky to find because you might not be able to find a course if they haven't got a vacancy at that time, if that makes sense. But I believe sort of telling you this now and they may never do it, but I believe UCAS are planning to do that where they will sort of list all of the courses that are available, whether they have vacancies or not, which will make it easier as well.
Yeah, and then you can sign up for alerts for when a vacancy does come around.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. We're going to move on slightly from the degree apprenticeship route. We may come back if we've got time and more questions. I just wanted to ask a couple to you, Sophie, because we've had a few about kind of gap years and deferring things. So we've got one from Jake. If I don't go to university in the year after my A levels, when do you apply as a mature student? Should you still apply and then defer your place, or should you wait a year? What's best?
It depends on your situation. So if you know that you are definitely going to take a gap year, you can apply for deferred entry for some universities, or you could apply the next year. If you finish your studies, you won't have the support of your school or college, but you still can submit a UCAS application. My advice to people who are doing that is, if you know what you want to study and you do just want to defer a year, is to get in touch with the admissions team for that course from that university. And so, for example, at Manchester, if you just go on the course profile for the subject that you're interested in, there's an admissions team email address there. That's my best advice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I've got one for you, Nicole. Somebody said they're studying functional skills English. Can they apply to university without having A levels?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think like for some of the think courses that we have, for instance, I believe our degrees in working with children, a lot of times if it requires industry knowledge, we can use industry knowledge to replace some of the academic requirements for coming in. This is the same for people who might be doing something in construction or engineering. If they have been working as a construction person for years, we can replace some of this academic requirements for entry for their actual industry experience. So we do take in consideration, especially at the university center, because we work with a lot of adults coming back into education, and we do take the experience that they have had on the outside into consideration when they do the course. However, certain things just are necessary on an academic, even, you know, having good English and math skills can be really important to being successful in the course. And if it is that case, sometimes we do allow equivalency in functional skills, but we do support learners and adult learners in getting those extra qualifications, including an A-level in access to HE, which is a brilliant qualification to sort of project people right into the course they want.
Yeah. Okay, one more on degrees. I'll come back to you, Sophie. Thank you. Sorry, Nicole. Somebody said, I'm studying physics, biology and stats. I want to take a physics degree. Do I still have a chance without A-level maths? I'm presuming it depends on different places.
Yeah, it depends on different places. I can't think of the physics requirements for Manchester off the top of my head, but usually if it says on the entry requirements that you need A levels in certain subjects, there's often no budging from that. Like I said before, if you do want to double check, speak to the admissions team. You can send admissions teams for all subjects an email.
Right. Another one for you, Alex. How vital is work experience to securing a degree apprenticeship, and does that experience need to be linked to the degree?
Yeah, so that's one of those things again that's probably quite subjective. What we would say is we never say it needs to sort of be in place to secure a degree apprenticeship, but as I mentioned before, it's down to the employer and them employing you. So obviously, if you had relevant work experience in a certain area, that is going to really strengthen your application in terms of both what you write, but also in an interview experience. So it's really just doing everything you can to give yourself the best chance and how you then speak about those experiences. So I know people have asked sort of specifically before if they got work experience with a certain company, would that give them a better chance? And obviously there's no guarantee of that, but you then know a lot more about the company and probably interview better about that company. So it's that from that kind of perspective rather than that we would say it's a definite requirement.
Yeah, it just adds to that application, gives you something to talk about in the interview.
Yeah.
Isla, I've got one for you. So the other reason that we invited Isla to come and talk to you tonight is that as part of her level 4 apprenticeship programme, she worked in the economy work and skills team at Stockport Council, which meant that she had a particular focus on kind of adult education budget courses, which basically means the fully funded free stuff that you can do at 18 plus. So just wanted to ask Isla, could you give us a little quick sum up of, or maybe some highlights of what else you could do at 18 plus? If you don't go to university, you don't do a degree apprenticeship, or maybe you're waiting for a degree apprenticeship opportunity to become available, what other types of courses are on offer for free that people might jump onto?
So there's the Prince's Trust. They have loads of courses that are like get into retail, get into music. So there'll be like a 5-day course and you'll just get taster sessions of those type of things. They're usually geared towards either 16 to 25-year-olds or 18 to 25-year-olds. And they'll have a couple of eligibility requirements. But if you're straight out of school or college, most of the time you'll be eligible. You've got boot camps. So there's people like Generation UK where they'll do 18-week boot camps or sometimes longer. They'll have guaranteed interviews at the end with employers that they've partnered with, and you'll basically get a snapshot and some training with qualified individuals on specific subjects, usually geared towards technology, but sometimes it can range from retail, as I said, or any other kind of healthcare, anything like that. Can you think of any other, Caroline?
There's a TikTok Creative Academy programs that are still running for people who are interested in kind of digital and graphic design. There's lots of get into healthcare programs for people at different levels. There's just lots of pre-employment courses generally, aren't there, that are linked to employers in everything from kind of green skills and retrofitting to coding. So there's a whole host of things that even if you think, I don't want full-time education or part-time education or something that's 2 years, 3 years that I have to commit to, but I do want something that improves my employability skills, then there's still courses out there for you. And you can find out about those on the GM Skills Map website and the GM Employ website and the Greater Manchester Learning Provider Network website as well. So again, we'll share these with you in an Eventbrite link afterwards. Nicole very kindly messaged me and said, you know, highlight the Prospects website as well, because there's some great resources on there too. So we'll send you a link of kind of good sources for Q&A, because there's some really good things out there. But I think, you know, there's even things with Stockport Homes, isn't there, like get into photography or
short courses where it'll be like every Tuesday, and you can get into crocheting. Stockport College also have a lot of adult education funded courses ranging from floristry to all types of things. So your
fashion design,
any dressmaking, there's so many different options that you can take. So don't feel like you're limited to just university or apprenticeships. If you want to fill your time with a part-time job or volunteering somewhere, the options are out there. You just have to look for them or ask for support to help you find them.
Yeah, so just on the volunteering thing, we talked about this last night, I think it was, or it may have been when I was at school earlier on this week. We've also got a fantastic website here in Stockport now called the Stockport Volunteer Hub, and there's over 300 different volunteering opportunities on there at the moment, ranging from sports to digital ones, graphic design and marketing, customer service. There's ones if you're active, there's ones if you know, want to develop your team working skills. And sometimes you never know, they can lead to a job opportunity, or they can give you that work experience that'll look great on a university application or something to talk about in a degree apprenticeship interview. Nicole, just to come back to you briefly, anything else at Stockport College that you would recommend people having a look at 18 plus that's kind of a good route to improve their kind of job and career prospects?
We have a lot of adult courses like counseling and courses like that. She was mentioning floristry. I'm like, we do? I haven't seen, but I did not know this. We've got a lot of art, you know, but as far as adult, you know, I would say anything that's just to skill up to like digital skills is so important. Honestly, get your digital skills up there and it will open doors for you. So if you're an adult that doesn't do really well at Word and that sort of thing, we've got lots of digital skills courses and they're amazing and they will open doors the more that you know how to be sort of digitally literate. And you know, we have adult GCSE maths and English, which is really important. Those are the keys to the kingdom, to be quite honest, to any job and any course. Please skill yourself up. So, and those are still free. So please do that.
Yeah. Some of the courses do you have to pay towards, but most of the adult education courses are fully funded or what we call free. There's just a couple of other things that I wanted to mention quickly because people have asked me about them separately. So first of all, in Stockport, we've got a scheme called Build a Business in Stockport Libraries. So anybody who's got an entrepreneurial flair and thinking about setting up their own business, maybe you've sold stuff on Vinted or eBay and you've made some cash over the last couple of years and you're thinking there's a job here for me, you can go along to the Build a Business workshops completely for free. They're also funded. Look on the website buildabusiness.co.uk and you'll find out all about them, or Google it in case I've not quite got that right. They run in Stockport Libraries on a kind of a 4-weekly basis, but you can start at any time. I also had a request to mention to you tonight about free interview support. So we've got a fantastic charity that's actually headquartered in Stockport called SmartWorks that provide free interview coaching and workwear for women. There is also an equivalent one called Working Wardrobe that is actually soon to launch an office in Stockport under Stockport Homes that does the same service for men. So whatever you are on the call tonight, there's options available for you. So if you need help with an interview for a degree apprenticeship or a part-time job or volunteering opportunity, you can get in touch with them and they'll be able to support you both with the coaching and the preparation and overcoming those interview nerves, but also with the outfits and the clothes that you might need to wear for the interviews as well. So be sure to check out those services completely free. Right, we've got a couple of minutes left. So what I just wanted to do is for everyone, apart from you, Isla, I'm afraid, is just give you a kind of a 60-second window to, you've been very kind coming on here tonight and giving us some quite neutral information. It would be really nice to kind of finish off with just you giving us a bit of a pitch, I suppose, for why people should come and study at Stockport College, at Manchester Uni, at Manchester Met, just as a really nice way for us to finish. So I'll come to you first, Nicole. What are your big selling points?
Well, I think that we have, for university qualifications, we have that same sort of FE environment. So if you like that sort of warm, really centered, person-centered approach that FE colleges tend to have, we continue that through FHE. So it's not the big university experience. It's kind of like we still remain small. We have small classrooms, we have small groups. You stay with your cohort going through to your career. We just did the graduation last week, and it was amazing. And it was amazing to see the chemistry between the students that had been on these courses together through all the years. And they got their, bachelor's degree, but they got them an excellent teaching. But we can afford to be excellent teachers because many of these teachers started in FE, and they have to be really good to be in FE. So it's really teaching intense. It's not, there's a lot of support that we wrap around our students. There's me and my colleague who's the SEN officer. We, go through drafts. We do everything that you would kind of get on an FE, but you get that in HE, and it's very personal. It's, you're not going to get the big university experience, but if you want that, we're 8 minutes away on the trains, just go hang out in Manchester for an evening and you've got that. So I think we're brilliant, but we are for the non-traditional adult students who really want to be in once a week, get their heads down and work, and then they've got a whole big life outside. And that's the kind of student that likes to come onto our course.
Brilliant, thank you. That is really helpful. Sophie?
Yeah, so I was a student at the University of Manchester myself 8 years ago, and I think something about the University of Manchester that is so brilliant is the student life. So we have a huge students' union, we have over 400 societies that you can join. So obviously kind of the teaching and learning side of it is important, but Manchester is a really fun place to be. I did German Theatre Society, so you can have kind of course-based societies, you can also have kind of interest-based societies, and if there isn't one that you're interested in, then you can set up your own. We have kind of Garlic Appreciation Society and Quidditch Society and everything you can imagine. The teaching itself is kind of the academics who teach you are very involved in current research, and they bring that to the teaching as well. So the curriculum is often very exciting, and you're learning about things that are just coming out in research. And then finally, I think the social responsibility aspect of the university is quite an exciting thing to be part of. So it's one of the key goals, and there's lots of volunteering opportunities for you to get involved in the local community.
Brilliant, thank you. It was that good she's never left, guys. So, really impressive accolade there. And Alex, lastly, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. So I think the thing that draws people to Manchester Met is probably that we provide a little bit sort of best of both worlds. So we're right in the heart of the city centre, but we're also a campus university. So we do have lots of nice green space, well, as much as you can sort of get in the city centre. And we also really focus on innovation and that kind of thing. So we've recently opened a brand new science and engineering building. And if you've ever driven on the Mancunian Way, you might have seen that quite recently. And we're also sort of developing a brand new library that's due to open in 2028 at the moment. So we put a lot back into making it a great environment for our students as well, with everything Manchester has to offer right on the doorstep.
Brilliant, thank you so much. That was a really good way to end tonight. I'm conscious that we've given out lots of extra information that people might not have been aware of, and obviously we've not written that down in the chat because we've been focusing on getting through as many questions as we can. What I will do is, to everyone who's registered tonight, or even to people who haven't been able to get into the call but signed up on Eventbrite, I will send an email out tomorrow with a recording of this, with all of that information in case you want to recap on it, and with a lot of those links that we've referenced and some more useful things. If you asked a question and we didn't quite get round to it, we will try and provide that written response to you. If you've got any more questions, you can feel free to email them to us at info@stockport-jobsmatch.com. Again, I'll put that on the Eventbrite email. I hope that you found this evening useful. We've tried to cram in as much information as possible. That's quite difficult when we're talking about all of the different options that are available at 18 plus, because there's so many. And I think that that's the point to finish on. You have so many wonderful choices out there, whether it is full-time employment, part-time employment, volunteering, degree apprenticeship, traditional degree, HNC, HND, or something else. So go out there and do your homework, do your research, speak to people, ask questions. And if you make the wrong choice, you can choose something else. So don't be afraid to kind of make mistakes and then pick yourself back up and make a new plan, because there's tons available to you, and some really great support services out there if you know where to look. So we'll make sure that you do. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm going to say a big thank you to our panelists, to Nicole, to Isla, to Sophie, and to Alex. I've been Caroline at Stockport Jobs Match. Please do go and visit the website stockport-jobsmatch.co.uk for a whole host of other information, and all of the recordings we'll put there on as well. Best of luck with your next steps, and we'll hopefully see you again at some point soon. Thank you to everybody and good night.
Thank you.
Bye.